Hello, and welcome to the Venue Coach Blueprint for Owners. I'm Kyle Labar. This podcast is all about helping you fill your wedding venue with more bookings, earn more from each one, and keep your customers happy for a long time. We'll also talk about some tough times and big lessons that I've learned along the way. Let's dive in together and make your venue the best spot for weddings. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Venue Coach. Today I wanted to talk about conversion rates again. So you'll hear me talk about conversion rates a lot because it really matters. And so conversion rates meaning from the tour to the booking. That's what I want to talk about today, and really talk about how it's not just one thing. It's lots of many things. So little things add up, and so I talked about previously in first impressions, but it's also how the tour is run, which we've kind of gone through a little bit of that. And the other piece of it is also just the feeling and the value proposition. So really wanted to focus on value proposition of the conversion rate. And so the point of that is if people don't know what you're offering and how valuable it is, then they're not going to make a decision to buy with you or to book with you. And so if we're not telling people what our value is, then and they're not booking, then there's a disconnect because people who book see the value, right? Or you've scammed them in some way, and shame on you for doing that. But I'm making the assumption that you aren't one of those, and so you actually have something valuable at your venue, and you're not just coercing and cajoling people into booking with you just based on false promises and whatnot. So, barring those people, it's really about presenting the value in such a way that's going to resonate with the couples that are coming in. And so that can be different in each market. You might have a venue that you might have a classic venue or a barn venue or a factory warehouse or a luxurious mansion or anywhere in between. It really doesn't matter. You're going to be differentiated not in what your venue is. There are beautiful venues everywhere, and yours is not the only one. So, if you're not the only one who's got a barn venue, which you definitely aren't, you are not the only one who's got a factory venue, you're not the only one who's got a mansion, you're not, the list goes on. So, then how do you differentiate? Because that's where you're going to see the biggest difference. So how do you make yourself stand out from the crowd of everybody else who's trying to pitch the same type of venue or a different type of venue with in the same market? I mean, yes, there's some of it that, well, this isn't really the style that I was going for. Okay, sure, can understand that. Or this was a little bit farther away than for what we were comfortable with. So there's some of those things that you can't account for, like your physical proximity and your style, like the actual look and feel of the venue. Now you can change some of those things, but usually those are quite expensive changes. So if everything else is the same, right? You have the exact same venue, you have the exact same general location, you have the exact same offer, you have the exact same advertisements, everything's the same. Which they aren't. First of all, they aren't. What makes you different? Who is going to win? The person who wins is going to be the person who knows when to follow up at the right time, who knows how to position the value. So even if your offer is the same, if it's not being conveyed, if you aren't telling them what the offer is in such a way that they understand it, then it doesn't matter how good your offer is. It doesn't matter if you're offering 15 hours of access and everybody else around you is only offering 10 or 12 or whatever. If you're not telling them that, then they don't know. And if you're not highlighting it, then they don't know. So it's really important that you focus on what makes you stand out the most. What is it about you? What is it about you and your venue and your staff and your experience and all of that that's really going to make you stand out? And how then can you present that to your prospects so that way they know and understand and can truly weigh the differences on what you have to offer and what the venue across town has to offer? And if you can present that better than they do, then you have a greater likelihood of getting the sale. And so then the back part is you got to back it up. And if you're not backing up what you're saying, then shame on you, and figure out how to do that, or eventually you will either be holding on, barely making anything, or you'll eventually be gone out of business because people see through it real quick, especially if they have a bad experience, leave a bad review. It's just not great for you. And so I would say focus on that as a little thought project or exercise. Pull out a pen and paper. Don't just think about it. Write it down. Write down the things that make you stand out, the things that you're proud of, the things that you want people to know about your venue, the things that you want them to know about you and how well you'll take care of them, or your staff if you have staff. And if you really focus on that, also focus on how can I make this even better, an even better experience. And there's a couple ways to do that. You can focus on how do I make this better without any extra money? How can I make this better without any extra time or money? How can I make this better with money and with a lot of money and a lot of time? So there's a few different avenues, but you start with the easiest impact. The things that don't really cost you a lot and that don't cost you a lot of time, and you start there. And then you start to work your way up to the more expensive things. And you may find that you never want to add the more expensive things, and that's okay. But if you start with the things, like it doesn't take any time or any effort to show up to your tour, open the door, and greet them by name. Like that costs you nothing. But yet that can have a big impact. The other thing that doesn't cost you much of anything is, do you send a follow-up text or email? That costs you nothing. And yet so many of us are hard pressed to do it. And so it's little things like that. You can start with those types of things. They may not have huge impacts, but 1% more every month is 12% more a year, which is a really good return. And so if you're able to get 1% more bookings or 10% more a year, think about it. Many people get 240 tours a year or something like that. And if you get another 24 bookings this year just by doing little things like that, then that's really awesome. So use that as a challenge. I challenge you to focus on what value you're bringing. How can you improve the value with little to no extra time or cost? And then be better. And so I'll leave you with that. I'll let you get to it. Let me know if you have thoughts or questions on this, and I will catch you in the next one.